So we're going to look at a little bit of the graphing ability of the student maps. What we're going to do is assume that you've got some maps set up already or some data in the map that you've just put together, and now we want to do some graphing of that data. Now, graphing data in a student map is very easy. You can always just click the graph map button, and what that will do is graph or create a graph for every single column on that page. The other way we can do it is to choose which columns we want to graph, and often across multiple pages. And we do that just by clicking in the column heading where you've got that little box next to the result type, and you can see now Pat Reading 2017 to 2018 are highlighted. I can now click the graph map button, and that shows me the Pat Reading stay nines from 2017 to 2018 with the current student highlighted in red. There are, of course, a number of ways that we can modify these. If we're looking at this particular data, we might want to look at the students' data next to each other. So we can go click the options button and choose group graphs. And this allows us to choose the option to say group them all together. And then what we can see is their semester 1 result from 2017 to semester 1 2018. All those colors are a bit similar, so that's probably not the best view of it. I think these colors have been defined in, yes, they have been defined. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to take map columns from different pages. I'm going to take my Pat Reading 2018 semester 1, English Reading 2018 semester 1, and South Australian Spelling from 2018 semester 1. So I've now chosen 3 different assessments. If I graph them, we get Pat Reading, English Reading and Viewing, and South Australian Spelling all on a single page. And as we saw before, we could choose the option to group them all together. And this gives us the relative results for each student grouped together. So each student has 3 bars indicating the 3 different assessments. There are dozens of ways of making these graphs customized to exactly what you want to see. One of the handy features is to be able to take let's just do Pat Reading on its own. So I'm going to untick the other 2 charts. What I want to do is I want to see the student's progress over time in this subject. So then we just click the options button and say the current student, so in this case it's Rosalind Leonard, show their progress over time in this assessment. And I'm going to choose all results, which means Grade Expert will pull in as many results as it can find. They don't have to be in this particular map, but they have to be in the database, and plot them in chronological order. So this is now just Rosalind's data for Pat Reading with her progress over time in stay nines. And you can see down at the bottom of the graph along the x-axis, we've got 2016 semester 1, 2016 semester 2, and 2017 semester 1, and 2018 semester 1. So this is plotting her progress over time, and it's measured in this instance against the average for the whole year level when she was in that year level. So she's been above average for the first 3 results, but at the expected level, or at the average at least, for the most recent result. We can then just click Next Student. We've only got 2 results for Russell, but we've got 5 results for Jerry. And we can just keep clicking through that. So this was the option that we selected called Current Student Progress Over Time for all results. This is really useful for performing analysis of perhaps trends, seeing how your whole cohort is progressing over time, because this horizontal purple line is telling us how the whole cohort is performing. That's the average result for the whole year level. So we can see in 2015 semester 2, the average stay 9 was a 5, but then it dropped down to a 4 in semester 1, the subsequent year, but then back up to 5 as an average, which is about what you'd expect to see. 5 is usually about an average for a stay 9. And there's dozens of different things we can do with these graphs. What I'm going to do is have a look at the distribution of stay 9s from 2017 to 2018 for Pat Reading. So I've selected just these two columns. You can unselect columns across the whole map quite easily just by right-clicking and choosing unselect all columns on all pages. And that means they've all been unselected. You can then select those two and choose graph the map. Now this is useful, but I actually want to see, well, how many kids are on a particular Stay 9 level for 2017 semester 1 in this cohort? So this is called a distribution graph. So I'm going to choose distribution of results as a bar chart. I'll do the same here. And now you can see how many students have achieved each level. So this is telling us for 2018 semester 1, 4 students achieved a Stay 9 of 7. Now you can find out quite easily who those students are just by clicking on the bar. There we go. Those are the 4 students, Christy, Gordon, Mia, and Matilda. And you want to compare that against the 1 student that achieved a Stay 9 of 7 from the year before. Well, Mitchell was the one who achieved that level in the year before. So this distribution really shows you the breakdown or the grouping of results per result level. This red dot is telling us where the current students sit. So Rosalind in 2017 was a Stay 9 of 6 and then a Stay 9 of 5 in the following year. Go to the next student and you can see that Russell had a Stay 9 of 1 and then a Stay 9 of, well, probably hasn't any data put in for the next year. And as we move through the students, you can see that the red dot changes to match what the students' Stay 9 levels were. We can get rid of that quite easily just by unticking highlight the student, and then that disappears. In the same way that we can select columns to graph, any selected columns can also be printed. So I'm going to take my semester 1 data for South Australian spelling from 2018. I'm going to take my Pat Reading Stay 9. I'm going to take my 3 English strands. So I've selected 5 different columns across 2 pages. I can then just click the print map button. And this then gives me a hard copy printout of that data. So obviously it's not graphed, but it does retain the colors that have been defined for that particular assessment. So you can print these maps out quite easily just by choosing the columns you want. As with the graphing of the map, if you don't choose any columns, then everything on that page will be printed or graphed. Now, just to touch on this growth column again, in Stay 9, you can graph growth quite easily just by selecting the growth column and choosing Graph Map. So this is now telling us which students have had the least to the most growth, and it's almost irrelevant what their scores were because we're just looking at growth in this instance. Of course, we can always go back and see the actual scores, but this is telling us that, the first 6 students in this cohort have gone backwards. They've gone down a level between the years. The next 4 or 5 students have stayed at the same level they were in the prior year. A number of students have gone up a level, 2 students have gone up 2 levels, and 1 student has gone up 4 levels, which is Rick. So you can graph growth. In fact, you can graph growth alongside actual results as well. So that's the semester 1 result, semester 2 result, and the growth. For some people, it might be easier to look at 3 graphs on a single row. So you can change how many graphs show up on a row just by changing this graphs per row to between 1 and 4. Let's leave it at 2 for now. One of the other questions that comes up quite often is how can we get rid of the names at the bottom of the graphs, because we don't want other parents to see student names. We just want to see we just want them to see their own child. So all of the graph appearance settings are done in the options button. And this particular example is the horizontal labels. So across the x-axis, at the moment, it's set to first name and surname initial, so Gordon V, Leslie G, and so on. I'm just going to choose none. Now, I like the way that this graph is set up, and I want to do the same thing for the other two graphs. I can do it manually by clicking Options, Horizontal Labels, None, or once I've got one graph set up the way I like it, I can click the Options button and choose the final item in this list that says Make All Graphs Look Like This One. Pretty simple. It applies all the same settings from your current graph to all the other graphs. And now it's very easy to discuss Rosalind's outcomes with her parents at a parent-teacher meeting, or print this out for reports and so on. And you've got a lot of the supporting data here where you can see what other students are getting, but you don't know who those other students are because we want that to remain confidential. So that's just a little look at the graphs. There's quite a bit more you can do with graphs, and if you want to find out some more, of course, let us know and we can help you out, or we can point you in the direction of our other training videos.